This evening, great panel, and we'll start with Duarte and Carolina this evening with with the latest news, basically. So the meeting is being live streamed, and it's going out live on YouTube now, I believe, which is great news. That's just happened this evening. Great panel, and okay, good. Yes, let me just mute that up and then say good evening to everybody here. Let's go first to Daniel. Who we missed you last week, Dan. You were imagining that you were having quite an exciting time back at home. How are you this evening?
Well, I'm quite all right. And thank you for missing me. I do appreciate that. I was in the Azores Islands, so I was not able to attend to the Dream Team session, but I'm here and let's go for tonight.
I imagine you have one or two things to say tonight about Portuguese politics.
Well,
We'll come back to you
it's
for that.
it's been an interesting week in politics wise. So yes, indeed, I do have some comments to do.
Brilliant. All right, that's fantastic. Looking forward to that. Nunu is here from the insurance world as well. How are you, Nunu? Just briefly, if we may check in with you.
Hello, everyone. So everything okay this week? Last week was a little bit strange from my side, but everything is okay now.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Nuno. Thank you for being here, answering questions on insurance, any aspect of insurance, and what a fabulous graphic you have behind you, a dog sniffing the back of your head and licking your ear occasionally as well. I'm expecting that any moment. All right, so we've got Duarte and Carolina. Carolina, good evening to you. How are you? And how is life at EI and the task force that's dealing with people getting over the line to have their to take advantage of the NHR scheme? How's that all going?
Hi, Carl. So it's been going well. Up and running. Well, very very well, and we do our best to try and reach all people. So yeah.
Good, good, and nice and busy. I'm assuming at EI at the moment. And Duarte, of course, here to talk about an incredible plot twist. We were with you last. Well, you were with us on the webinar last week, Duarte, and we were having a live feed as the president was talking about what was likely to happen with the dissolving of the parliament. And it was confirmed that the NHR scheme would be finishing as suggested, 31st of December, the end of this year. And is there some new news to give new hope this evening? Duarte, please give us the latest news, if you will.
Good evening, everyone. We are jumping from one plot twist to the other. So who knows where this is going to end up? And I'm sure both Carolina and Danielle will have some comments as well about this. But I'm going to try to make a summary without being too confusing and without speaking too fast because I'm on a tight schedule today. But the socialist government, so the acting government now, made a ratification of the initial proposal to end the NHR. So now they were playing the bad cop, and now they are trying to play the good cop. And they came with a group of solutions to mitigate the effect of the NHR ending at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. This is not yet public, or at least official. Yesterday morning, I received this by WhatsApp. Then it was somehow leaked into the news, so it became public. But this is not, as far as I know, a public document. I might be mistaken, but this is not a public document. So I wouldn't put too much hope on this, but there will definitely be some revision of the end of the NHR, and that's what I want to shortly explain. There are 7 new circumstances under which the NHR will be applicable in 2024. So it might be possible for a lot of people to jump into the NHR next year. Some of them are more a clarification than a new thing, but I'll try to group them by date of relevance. What do I mean by this? Is that some proposals rely on the 10th of October, which was the date of the first proposal by the government, Other measures rely on the date of 31st of December. So step by step. People who had a rental agreement signed until the 10th of October 2023, according to this proposal, will be eligible for the NHR in 2024. So they get, all these people get 1 extra year. Okay. The same thing is applicable for people who had a promissory agreement to buy a real estate property in Portugal before the 10th of October, or people who had reserved a real estate property by that date. Those will also be eligible for the NHR in 2024. Also, people who had their children registered in schools by October 10th, also eligible for the NHR in 2024. So this is the first group of people that might get an NHR starting 2024. The second group of people, which is actually a bunch of different groups, is the following. People who have a employment contract or a promissory employment contract by the end of 2023, also eligible for the NHR until 2024. So these people might still sign a contract in the upcoming weeks and get access to the NHR in 2024. There is one very important detail here is that the work should be in Portuguese territory for this to work out.
What do you mean by that? As in you need to be here to negotiate that rental contract?
No, not the rental contract. I'm talking about employment contract.
Oh, employment. I beg your pardon.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. People who get an employment contract or a promissory employment contract until the end of the year,
yeah,
will be eligible for the NHR in 2024, provided that they will work in Portugal, actually, in Portuguese territory.
All right.
Also, people with a residency visa until the end of the year will be eligible for the NHR in 2024. Carolina can comment on this, but it's not something new. It's just a clarification of what was already in place. And finally, and this is the big window that is going to bring a lot of people into the conversation, is everyone who is still able to initiate the process with the consulate or the embassy until the end of the year will also be eligible for the NHR in 2024, according to this proposal.
Wow. Okay. Is that everything you want to share at this point?
Yeah, let's
yeah,
let's take a step back now.
Yes, and I can understand the pivot there. It's to make it fairer, basically, isn't it? And where we had the deadline being the end of the year, it's as though now people are being treated a little more fairly who have made an attempt to be here in Portugal, and they're not going to be punished by not applying for the NHR by the end of the year with the conditions you've mentioned.
Yeah, basically the government used the expression of legitimate expectation to justify these changes. There might be, this might not work out as the government think, because ultimately this might be against the Portuguese constitution.
Yes,
but that's something that we can probably discuss tomorrow if we have the opportunity to talk about this into detail. But I'm sure that Daniel will have some insight on this as well.
I'm sure he will, for sure. Let's go to Carolina first. Thank you very much for that, Dwight. That's very clear and helpful. Thank you so much. I know you can only be with us for about 10 more minutes. So if anybody has a question specifically for Dwight, ask it now, and I'll get back to Dwight as soon as I can after we've spoken to Carolina and Daniel to respond to that constitutional matter. Carolina, what would you like to add to that Dwight has just shared with us?
Yeah, I would like to address the migration part, the visa part. Well, regarding the residency visa and the residence permits and issue valid until the end of December 31st, we were already seeing this. So this is nothing new. We were already being able to change the tax, because the NHR is a two-step process. As people have made already understand. So change of address first, and then the application itself. The hard part is the first one, the change. And we were already seeing success with the visa, adding the visa to that as proof of actual wanting to be here, and doing everything to do so. As Duarte said, the big thing, the window opening would be regarding this last point, the manifesting the wanting of coming, so already initiating some process.
Yeah.
But let's clear that initiating a process is not something very clear on the law, unless they just say with the correct institution, something like that. So it would be along the lines of the consulates, the VFS, and not like seeking out a lawyer, like it's the official state organization.
Okay, thank you very much for your additions there, Carolina. We'll come back to you. And of course, Carolina is here from EI, from A, and can answer wider questions on migrating to Portugal and the visas that you need to do so. And she works with the team at EI and Gilda, of course. Romana's also joined us since we began, who may have had a little lull in inquiries recently as people wait for things to settle a little bit in Portugal. And maybe that is the indication people are looking for. And you might get a whole load more mortgage inquiries tomorrow, Roman. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Well, actually, I don't see any difference in terms of like how many people are still willing to come here to Portugal, fortunately, actually.
Good.
But yeah, some people were quite afraid of all these new things, especially on the tax aspect of it. But most of my American clients and even European, when they talk about these NHR things and everything, like the whole tax advantage, they'll be like, well, even if we don't have the icing on the cake anymore, I mean, we'll still have the cake, right?
We still have the cake.
So,
yep,
exactly.
Very
so
good.
that is the good thing. We need to. That's how I see things right now. So even if maybe tomorrow it might get a bit less interesting that right now today,
yeah,
I think Portugal still has bright days in the future. So I'm pretty confident in the future. I think people who come here come first for the quality of life, the safety and everything, especially I'm in Lisbon, and we often compare Lisbon to other big European capital. Yeah. And Lisbon remains the cheapest capital for almost every aspect. Of course, real estate is kind of in a weird spot right now, but I think I'm pretty confident in the future.
Excellent. Thank you for that perspective. Even if they lose the icing, they're not losing the cake. That cake could be a bolo de rei. Let's go to him now. Daniel dos Reis.
That was a smooth transition.
Did you like that? Did you like that?
Yes.
So interesting point that Duarte made there about it might not be constitutional. And I need to find out from you. And I'm sure I'm asking on behalf of other people who are thinking, well, how's this process working? You know, on one minute, we're hearing about suggestions, ideas from the government as though it were law. And then we find it was not actually the law. We're just talking about it at this stage. Can you take us through the process that would make this happen or not, as Duarte was mentioning there?
Well, we have an unfortunate political tradition in Portugal, and this is to approve the budget with other laws. We call it in Portuguese cavaleiro orçamental, or this is basically a horseman that is riding on, so there's a horseman riding on the horse that is the budget. That's what cavaleiro orçamental means. So
right.
This is a political tradition in Portugal. Instead of just approving the budget with the ins and outs and where the government is going to invest, where it's going to spend money, where it's going to divest, the governments always do this. They did this with the golden visa laws. They put it in the budget. They're doing this with NHR. So, and they do it not only with migratory things, but with a lot of aspects. So the government, it has the backing of the Partido Socialista, or the Socialist Party, as Duarte said. So the government is the one that proposes the budget, and they were the ones that proposed the situation regarding the cutoff of the NHR at the end of 2023. And they were the ones that proposed to increase substantially the payments of the old cars and the tax of the old cars.
Yeah.
But now they're backtracking on the two measures. And this is now, instead of the government, it's the party, the Socialist Party, stating that they should revise these measures because they know that they're going up to elections and they need to suit the public, they need to suit their audience. So they're trying a bit to tone down the measures that they were not willing to negotiate whatsoever before this political scandal just broke out. So this is, in my reading of the situation, the Socialist Party trying to gather a bit more votes because they're running up to the elections, and these are the reasons behind this backtracking that we are seeing. And indeed, it poses a few questions of the legality and constitutionality of the situation. And as Duarte said, this is just a proposal out of the Socialist Party. This was not yet inserted in the voting out of the budget. So this can still go sideways and still not be approved. So my advice to everyone that are considering coming to Portugal, don't stall on your plans, carry on with the plans that you were having if you were to come in the end of 2023, still submit your residency visas or just come to Portugal and get your situation sorted here because this is uncertain. And if the NHR is a relevant part in the migration procedure and you don't want to create the risk for yourself of just counting on politicians and that this proposed measure will go forward, then my strong advice is that if you were considering moving to Portugal now, do it instead of just waiting for 2024, because if this doesn't go forward, then the NHR may be out of the equation. The other aspect that I want to emphasize is some of the contracts that were that will basically be able to request the NHR, even if you just come on 2024. Some of those contracts don't need notarized signatures, like, for instance, a promissory work contract. And this is something that can lead into a lot of fraud. So I think that the government is trying to sort out the situation, but will allow a lot of people doing fraud with having contracts with the dates that do backtrack from the 10th of October, before the 10th of October. So I think that this new measure, it does make sense to have a transitory period, but this may create more problems than it will sort out. So again, if you are considering moving, do it now instead of waiting for 2024.
That's not unusual, though, is it? This thing of it might cause problems later. We're quite used to that, aren't we? You know, in it being fixed as we go and being adjusted. But that's really great advice. As in, don't halt your plans. Maybe see this news as a second bite of the cherry or a way to get the icing on the cake. That the analogy that was used before. So it might just extend your chances, but it's not a good reason to delay. Would that be a useful a sort of shorthand analysis?
You didn't put it better, Carl. That's basically it.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. I think we should say thank you and goodbye to Duarte. I know you were only able to come and give us that interesting news, Duarte, this evening, and we will look forward to having another interview or recording with you as time allows to elaborate further and answer more questions. But for the time being, thank you. Thanks for popping in tonight. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I have just a few more minutes, and before I leave, I'm gonna drop a little bomb just to keep people excited.
No, I can't. Come on, don't do that. All right.
No, I'm joking. But tomorrow we might address some more specific details of this proposal and why I think this might go against the Constitution and why I think ultimately that might mean the survival of the entire NHR for another whole year.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's going to be worth tuning in for. Duarte, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest
Have a nice evening.
Your evening. Thank you for being here. Wonderful. We see that too. We have Sara Santos as well from EI. How are you this evening, Sara? Good to see you.
Hello, good evening. Nice to see you too. How are you?
Things? I'm well. How are things with you?
I'm fine. Now there's a lot of questions about these new proposals from the government, but we hope to have more answers in the 29th November.
Yeah.
And let's see.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Sarah, for being here tonight. So any
Thank you.
questions you have about migrating to Portugal in the broadest sense, we can help you tonight. Specifically, we have skills from the team at EI from Asesoria Migratoria, who can help you with all the visas that you need and associated services. We've got Daniel from Res and Pelicano, who can help you with any aspect of the law here in Portugal. And I'm sure he'll have some more to say about the recent politics and the constitution and how they relate to each other. Of course, Roman is here, who is in the business of financing the purchase of property here in Portugal, and Nuno from Winsurance, any aspect of insurance here as well, moving to and living here in Portugal. Let's see what's coming in on the chat. Patrick and Barbara are here in Detroit. Can we make the deadline if we start the process with EI this week? Sarah, thank you for being busy in the chat. Could you share that with everyone there? And just as a more general point, can people make the deadline if they work with you in the new task force? The deadline as it was, by the way, not as it might be. Okay.
Depends of the situation of each person, but we believe that at this moment we are doing our best to help everyone to obtain the NHR. So I believe it's possible, but send us an email so we can check and analyze your situation better and help you the best way.
Yeah, that's really great advice, because of course, with this, although there are generalities and Portuguese law and the standards that apply to everybody, each case is individual, of course, and unique, of course. There are so many moving parts when it comes to moving to Portugal. So you need to check with your own unique situation, not just you, Barbara and Patrick, but anyone who's doing that. You need to chat with the professionals, book an appointment and find out what you're up against in your individual circumstances. Great response there, Sarah. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Linda. Are you happy to ask your question out loud here, Linda, with us?
Yes, that's fine. I'm not quite sure to whom I should address it, but hi. If there must be a lot of people in my situation, I'm waiting on the San Francisco consulate. I had my my VSF appointment in mid-October, and I'm hoping, of course, that the residency visa will come through. However, Daniel, when you said get over here right away, how would somebody in my situation who has no, well, I don't have a passport right now. The consulate has it. I even forgot that part. But how would it help me to get to Portugal right away?
Well, with this change in the law that they are proposing, if you have a rental agreement ongoing, I don't know if this is the case, probably it is because you requested the visa. I think that for your situation, you are in the clear because indeed you have already an ongoing visa process. And with this proposal in the law, I think that you will be in the clear, but there's some doubt in the air if this proposal will go through or not. But for instance, for someone that is considering requesting a visa in the beginning of 2024, my advice is that they should come to Portugal, rent out a property, and deliver the visa as soon as possible. Because if they have already a foot here in the country, requesting the tax residency is way easier. And this is not the problems that we are facing at the moment in changing the tax residency for our clients. They do vary substantially, because in some situations it's relatively easy. In some of the situations we need to fight the tax authorities back and forth. So it really depends on the interpretation of the employee that is assessing the situation. Some of them do accept just a rental agreement that is registered and an entry stamp in Portugal, and that's it. Others will want to have the residency visa and will put a reply that was written by the tax authorities that states that only with the residency permit they will accept the change in the tax status. So things are a bit murky at the moment, but having someone in Portugal with an entry stamp, with a rental agreement here, it does assist dramatically the request of the tax residency and thus the NHR. If this rule goes forward, then I would say that the rush is not that big, but it needs to go forward. It needs to be included in the budget and it needs to be voted out. the probabilities of it being voted out, they are okay, I would say, because this is the majority party wishing to have something included in the budget, and they can do it. So I don't see any political backlash that this will not occur, but it's uncertainty in the air, and the sooner the better. That's basically my advice on the topic.
Does that answer the question and change your plans there, Linda?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But is November 29 the big day then?
For the voting of the budget.
For
Correct.
this being clear about this.
Unless something out of the ordinary happens, yes, that's the envisioned date. What we call the global voting out of the budget, it's scheduled for the 29th of November this month, yeah.
Okay,
but
but there
that's a
could
key
be
date.
constitutional problems, right?
Well, it can, but that's if it goes into the law, then this can be discussed into the constitutional court. But if there is a perspective of a right, I don't think that the government will backtrack on the rights of people that move to Portugal, considering that they would do it with the NHR, because they'll just need to take the hit, and that's basically it, concede the right of someone that was trying to request the NHR. But it's doubtful or it does raise some doubts the way that this is being done and the legal procedures to be applied. So this had a lot of uncertainty in the air, unfortunately, and don't take this proposal for granted. That's basically my strong advice. It may happen. It all indicates that will happen, but take it with a pinch of salt.
There you go, Linda. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And thank you, for reiterating that key date, which is the 29th of November. And I almost hesitate to ask you this, Daniel, but I think you said unless something extraordinary happens. I mean, what might that be?
Well, if the judiciary powers do leak some horrible things into the press, because this is something that the judiciary shouldn't do. They're barred from doing the processes in what we call secrecy. So it should be, no leaks should occur, but this is quite common because the public ministry, the DA, likes to roast politicians in slow cooking, and this is what they're doing. They're leaking things bit by bit to just cook the politicians in a slow pan. So let's say that something really horrible comes out, and the prime minister states, well, I'm putting my towel down, I'm giving up, and I'm off. Then what happens is that instead of approving the budget, the situation will go into a managerial government, and the number 2 in the government will replace the number 1. This means that this managerial government will not need a budget approved and will not have the powers to approve a budget until new elections come up and new parliament is voted. So this is just considering that the situation stays as it is and nothing horrible happens, but a new blow may occur, and the still ruling prime minister may put his towel down. This was when this scandal came up, what I thought to occur. So the track that I was envisioning in my mind was, well, he asked to step out. And we'll have new elections quick, and this would be the end of January, beginning of February, and this would mean that we wouldn't have a budget voted. This was what I was envisioning, but this was not the decision of our president. He decided to keep the government a few more months in power so they can approve the budget, and then we'll step into elections. But the situation is dynamic, so it can change. Nothing that I know will, at least for the news that came out until now, seem to indicate any surprises, but we were not expecting this big surprise a week ago. So
never know.
We never know.
Thank you for that illustration there and that possibility. My goodness. Okay, Laurie was going to ask a question. I think we have it here in the chat. And you mentioned, Daniel, about challenging the decisions of Finanzas. I think that's what this relates to. Laurie is saying, I was rejected for tax residency by the tax authority on Friday, just this last Friday, based on my lease. My lease started on October the 1st. which of course everything changes, doesn't it? Given what Duarte was sharing with us in relation to that date. Does this mean I can appeal? Visa expected early January. So if things go according to plan, Laurie could appeal, couldn't she?
I think so. I think that she has grounds to appeal. And the question that I pose is, was the contract registered into the tax authorities? Because that's really relevant.
Yes.
Was that you,
okay,
Laurie?
it was registered.
Yes.
My advice is for you to, where do you live in Portugal?
At Tomar, thanks to Jerry.
You've done the procedure online, or did you went in person to a tax bureau?
My D7 attorney did the request with my lease, which started October 1st, and my VFS appointment was October 4th. Okay. Now, I actually have a question that sort of goes off Linda's too. I actually, and I don't know if this makes a difference in terms of your recommendation to go to Portugal. The earliest I'm going to get my visa is early January. The expected arrival that my D7 attorney recommended I put down on my application was January 7th, because she said there are 5 Portuguese holidays from the time I applied to the end of the year, plus the additional Thursday, Friday, Thanksgiving holiday next week for the US. So she said I'm losing 7 business days in effect. So earliest would be January 7th for me. I've never been to Portugal. And I'm wondering, does it make sense for me to just make a quick, couple day trip just so I can say, well, I've been to Portugal?
Well, I think it does. If you can find cheap flights, I would risk it out. Because you would then have an entry stamp in Portugal. And if possible, do fly directly to Portugal instead of going via Madrid or via the entry in Schengen space should be via Portugal. So if you fly to London, that's okay. If you have a connection flight in London, but try to have an entry stamp in Portugal. And then with your rental agreement, consider doing the request in person in Tomar. So instead of doing it online, do the request of the tax residency in person, and that may do the trick. It's not guaranteed, but I would consider doing that if you can find cheap flights according to your availability. But do you have your passport with you, or is it retained in VFS?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, you know what? That's the other. I'd totally
Linda,
forgotten.
right?
I had called them to ask them when this all happened, could I have my passport sent to me? And now that I'm remembering, they told me, yes, I could have my passport sent back to me, but then I would have to reapply. So, I'm just remembering that now. So I actually can't come before the end of
because VFS, there's no need for VFS to retain the applicant's passport. They just do it. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, they said that it would save me a couple weeks, because they said if I didn't leave my passport, then I'd have to send it to them, and they said it would delay the visa a couple weeks.
Well, but to restart the process, for me, it doesn't make any sense, but I'll leave Carolina and the other visa specialists to state if this is a correct assessment. But my advice is wait for the final vote of the budget. Because you can plan a bit with this. Have the vote going forward in the parliament and see what's the final result. If the law is altered into this new proposal, then you are in the clear because you already have your rental agreement duly registered, and you can rest assured that all goes well, especially because you started already a visa process. If this new proposal is not inserted in the law, do consider in between the first week to the second week of December, while the things are still open and you can still do stuff in Portugal, consider coming to the country to request your tax residency directly, and consider doing it in Tomar, because in the big cities like Lisbon and Porto, people are not so helpful in terms of the tax boroughs, but outside of the big cities, they have less work and they are a bit more patient.
Very good. Thanks for that insight and advice. Laurie, go on.
So as long as somebody counteracts what VFS told me, because they did say they could send me my passport.
Mhm.
I paid for the expedited service for it to be returned to me with the visa. So if they are wrong, and that doesn't mean I have to totally restart the process, then I should come.
I'm not sure about that. Do address that with your D7 lawyer, or if someone from A can jump in on this one and
Yeah, let's
assist,
do that.
because
Let's go to Carolina. What do you think of that?
Well, it quite depends. I agree with Daniel. We need to wait for the 29th, because if this transitory thing goes through, you're fine, because you fit in two categories of like protected. But if it doesn't go through, well, then you are on a limbo. So we need to see on the 29th what actually will happen, because we don't
Okay.
have all the facts yet. So if it goes through, you're fine. If it doesn't, you are actually not, no, it's not that you are not fine, you are just indefinite. So it's a little unfair for us to try and give you a full answer, because VFS workers sometimes say one thing, some other times say other things, and they are not very like trustworthy. Well, because probably you even called them, what, as you said, you don't even,
Yeah,
you don't
Carolina,
have
one of
proof
the
of what they
things
said.
I did actually call over the course of like a week and a half. I called 3 times, just thinking, well, maybe, because yes, you do get a different answer from different people. I got the same answer from all of them, but again,
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder, do they really know?
Until the end of the month, I wouldn't do anything. I would wait, because if this goes through, you can use both your rental agreement already in force and the proof that you already had your appointment, so your process is already ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this you would fit 2 subcategories, which would be great, but again, we don't know if they will be actually going through.
Okay, it looks like so we don't get too caught up in an individual particular case there, and I think there is a useful sort of overall view here that 29th of November is a very important date. Certainly that will be helpful to you, Laurie, and I think that this is a date everyone else but perhaps will be focusing on to see what actually happens. Jose, thank you, Laurie. Is that okay with you for the time being? I think that's as much as we can probably tell you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Carl, can I just
Thanks
say
for being here today.
something?
Yeah, of course you can, Carolina. Yeah, please do.
I didn't jump a little bit earlier, but this is the same thing for Linda.
Yeah.
Linda is pretty much on a similar situation as Laurie.
Yeah.
So same thing. If this transitory goes through, Linda is both protected under a couple subcategories. If it doesn't, limbo.
Yes.
So again, I don't have a full answer for Linda. I'm sorry as well. Same thing as for Laurie. We need to wait it out to see what will happen, so we can decide properly with facts.
Well, you've given us as good an answer as you can under the circumstances, I would say. So thank you very much, Carolina, for that. Jose Cruz was talking about the 29th of November. Where was that question there? Because that was very useful about dissolution of Parliament, I think. Oh, yeah. If the budget is passed on the 29th of November, how soon after is Parliament dissolved? Our constitutional expert, Daniel, hasn't it technically been dissolved already? But I mean, when does this actually happen in relation to Jose's question?
Well, it wasn't. The president did something that was quite surprising. He said, well, I'm not dissolving the parliament now. Let them approve the budget, and I will dissolve the parliament afterwards. But he already stated the date of the election. So we've never seen something like this. This is a bit out of the blue. And I was not expecting this solution for 2 reasons. Once the prime minister wants to step down, the usual tradition is that they start only with the day-to-day powers of management. They don't have the normal powers because they decided to step down. And the other thing is, if there's a switch in power in Portugal, the party that was in the opposition will be the ruling party, and thus will need to will need to govern with the budget that they don't agree upon. So they will need to amend the budget to have the budget tailored to their political expectations and political programs. So it's a solution that I don't see a lot of sense doing it, especially because in Portugal, as in the majority of countries, you have a rule that if the budget is not approved, the government needs to spend the money per month. So a pro rata basis, they divide the budget in 12. The past budget, the budget from 2023, they divide it in 12, and in January they can spend the money for January, in February for February, and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't be a big fuss, a big problem to have the government ruling with 1 or 2 months with this type of budget, because it has happened before. So this was an option out of the president that I still struggle to understand, to be honest. It's not something that I fully grasp what is his intentions, because if we have a switch in power that may occur, is likely to occur, then the next government will need to amend this budget. So
okay,
why
so
bother to do this?
I don't want to deprive anyone of the opportunity to ask questions or get too bogged down in the politics, but I'm actually finding this really interesting, and I hope others are too, for the sake of some clarity here. So the parliament is not dissolved technically. He didn't do
Correct.
that. The prime minister has given his resignation, but it has been accepted, but he's still a caretaker of his own job. Is that correct as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Fully correct.
On the 29th of November, the budget as proposed will be voted upon, at which point these laws will be passed or not, or adjusted to taste between now and then. But on the 29th of November, that is the moment, unless some other extraordinary thing happens, that's the moment at which it will be passed. And then the budget will be in place between the end of November, and presumably the dissolution of parliament happens closer to the 10th of March, when there'll be the general election.
Well, the budget is only valid from the 1st of January onwards, but other laws that are already that are connected with the budget, like the NHR situation,
yes,
will be immediately active once the budget is approved. That's why it's not a good technique to have the budget with strings attached with other laws on top of it, because things don't pan out exactly as they should, but that's a good description of the reality.
Okay, thank you. Jose Cruz, we bought a home in Santa Cruz. This is just some feedback that might be useful to other people. We went to Finanças in Torres Vedras, showed our deed, a utility bill, and my NIF, and they agreed to change my address from that of our legal representative to our home address. All well and good. The following day, our accountant submitted my NHR request, and it was approved the same day. Still, this caused a lot of stress, but we are happy to now have our NHR. And I mean, that is one of the unfortunate situations at the moment, isn't it? Is it has caused stress for people, and the only help we can really give on that is we have a team of great professionals who you can get support from. And it is to acknowledge that it is a stressful situation at the moment, no question about that. And glad to see that it's gone in the right direction for you, Jose. Laronda, I keep seeing all over the internet forums, and this is like Pandora's box, isn't it? You shouldn't look, but you want to, because we're desperate to find out information, and then you look everywhere and you get conflicting information, and like the more information you get, the more conflicting it becomes. Laronda says, I keep seeing all over the internet forums that registering your NIF with your Portugal address qualifies you to apply for tax residency, legal residency not necessary. I've also seen something about having a manifestation of interest and being in Portugal on a tourist visa. Lots of confusing info everywhere. Can you shed some light on that little vignette there, please, for Laronda, Daniel?
Well, indeed, as always, the internet is a source of a lot of myths that we need to debunk. So that happens as professionals quite a lot, and I've read it somewhere, or I've read it in Facebook. But indeed, if the person is already in Portugal, and this is quite relevant, For me, the reading that I have, and Jill has swapped a few ideas with me, she has the same reading of the law. You can only submit a manifestação de interesse if you're already in Portugal. And this may be a solution for someone that still doesn't have the visa, wants to come to Portugal and enjoy the NHR. This manifestação de interesse may be an idea to explore, an avenue to explore. But to have the manifestação de interesse submitted, that person needs to already be living in Portugal. And what is sometimes being advertised out there is that the person without their presence yet in Portugal should submit the manifestação de interesse and will obtain the tax residency in the NHR. They will, but if that situation is looked at carefully, this may be considered a crime. Because it's false declarations upon a law, upon a public authority, because they're stating that they wish to obtain residence in Portugal without being in Portugal. And the reading that I have is that this may be considered a crime. So I was approached by a lot of people regarding this solution, and my answer has been clear-cut. If that person is in Portugal, then submitting a manifestação de interesse is all right. I don't see any problems with that. If that person never set foot in Portugal and they wish to submit a manifestação de interesse, then I think that they're just contorting the law. And this may lead into some, if the situation is investigated, of course, into an unpleasant result. And that's why I'm advising against everyone that wants to follow that route in submitting a manifestação de interesse without being in Portugal. Usually, manifestação de interesse entails or having a work contract in Portugal or a service providing contract. If it's a service providing contract, it may be with an entity abroad. It doesn't need to be with an entity in Portugal. So there's ways of establishing themselves, obtaining the resident or the route to residency permit and the route to tax residency with this manifestação de interesse, but don't see it as the solution to all evils. Manifestação de interesse is indeed something that, if my reading of the law is correct, it can only be kickstarted, it can only be submitted if that person is already in Portugal, if he has entered or she has entered as a tourist in the country. But I don't know if this addresses all.
Well, let's see, Laronda, does that help? Thank you for that bit of debunking there. Carolina, did you want to add anything to that? We're going to come to you anyway because there's something to talk about with the IMT. But what do you make of that? Would you want to add anything to what Daniel's just said there?
I completely agree with Daniel, and what Laronda was saying regarding the keep reading and reading. It's like when you're sick and you to lead towards Google and look to find your disease, and suddenly you're dying. So careful with what you're reading, because there's a lot of misinformation all over, immigration-wise, but specifically with this specific NHR thing, because since there's really not set in stone final answers, people are conjecturing and inventing, and well, we need to keep our foot on the ground, because there's life after NHR, and we cannot make something up and that will mess up our lives later.
Yes, well said. Well said. It's not worth the trouble or the risk, is it? So thank you both, Carolina and Daniel, on that. Very thorough answers to Laronda's question there. And we had Rosalind sending a question for your attention there. Apologies for asking, but did you see my email question to you about whether or not IMT requires my glasses prescription? That's an interesting point there. Do they do that? Do IMT?
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Sorry, Carlo, I interrupted you. It was
I'm getting my Carolina's mixed up. Forgive me, that was my mistake there. So Carolina Morelia is answering about IMT. Do they ask for glasses prescriptions?
No. Sometimes when you do the medical records and you do the appointment with the physician, they sometimes add that you need glasses to drive. But you don't need to present the glasses prescription to IMT. They won't reject your submission by that on those grounds.
Wonderful. Good evening to you, by the way. Sorry, I overlooked you. How are you?
Good, thank you so much. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. It's a bit exciting session tonight. It's never a dull moment. is there, especially at the moment with Portuguese politics. So thank you for being here and thank you for that answer. And I had to look this up. Faja Figas. I didn't know that. Fingers crossed. There you go. There's some great value for everybody. You need to write that down. Fingers crossed. Faja Figas. They're great bit of Portuguese vocabulary for you. Let's go back to Linda, who's just put her hand up. Do you need to know more Portuguese, Linda? Well, that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing.
No, no, no falo português.
Okay, well, that's not bad. That's a great start.
But it's a start anyway. Okay, I'm Daniel. I'm going to try to explain this. You were talking about the situation where the budget, say, is passed, and then the opposing, and say everything that is in it is good for us who want to get the visa, you know, or want to get into Portugal. So all of these new sweeteners are in the new budget. It gets passed, then Parliament is dissolved. The opposing group comes in. They are going to perhaps amend things, but it will take them maybe a month or two. Does that mean that the good stuff that might get amended, that came through and was passed, does that apply until the amendments are finished, say, in a month or two?
Correct. So I don't think that it will take a month or two. It will take more than that, because if the elections are in March, it means that the new government will probably be fully fledged and sworn in probably end of April. So it will take quite a while to have the new government in power. And the interesting fact is that it was the people that are now in the opposition party that approved the NHR in the first place. So I would say that they are a bit more keen into the NHR program than the guys that are in power now. I may be wrong, but I don't think that even if they can, they will change the NHR rule back and try to remove the possibility of the applicants to obtain the NHR. And if they did it, I think that the Portuguese state could be sued. If you see the golden visa example at the time when the prime minister said in February, well, we're going to terminate the program immediately. This was basically what was conveyed in the beginning of this year. And then everyone, of course, started screaming all over the top of their lungs, because they said, well, this is unconstitutional and illegal, because people were halfway throughout their investments. They were doing the process. So rules can be changed for the future, but the legal expectations of someone that is halfway will need to be respected. So I think that, let's say that these new rules are applied, that we have this transition regime, and that this is taken down by the next government, and they say, well, the only people that will receive the NHR are the ones that were here in 2023. This transitory regime will not be applicable. Then the Portuguese state could be sued, and this would be a winnable case. It would take quite a long time, unfortunately, but this would be a winnable case, because they're not in the right to change the law and to go against the legitimate expectations of someone that is changing their lives to Portugal, and that was accounting with this new regime. So changes in the law can only affect for the future, and not legitimate expectations that were created in the applicants for the past. So I would say that even if it's changed, the political mayhem that will create and legal mayhem that will create will make the government backtrack on the situation quite fast, as the government did with the golden visa situation, because they said, well, the prime minister has announced that the end of the program is done. Well, prime minister stating some words is not the law. And as you've probably seen, the guy announced that in the mid-February, and the law was approved and finally done in the beginning of October. So it took quite a long time for the legislative process to occur and all the steps to be created. And this basically means that the new government, even if they want to backtrack on the situation, they will not be able to do so.
Very good. Thanks, Daniel. Does that help, Linda? A great question. And who knew that there would be so many experts about Portuguese politics around the world now, which I think is the case after these conversations. Linda, is that clearer for you?
Yes, clearer, not completely clear, but
you know, I do understand and acknowledge that this is very difficult for people who want to.
No, it's very helpful. Extremely helpful.
And it's difficult and stressful. We know this. People who are looking at what's going on from the United States, for example, where it's not going to be in your daily news. You need to come to a webinar like this to find out more. And I'm sure it feels stressful and uncertain. And as I said before, the best we can do is connect you to the people who can give you some decent answers, as you've heard tonight. But we can't take away the fact that it is a difficult and stressful process, and it has been made more so. I mean, it is a difficult process anyway, moving country, and this has only made it more difficult. So we acknowledge you and see you going through these processes, and we send our best wishes, and we do our faz figas for you, and can only apologize. I don't know why I'm apologizing on behalf of the Portuguese government, but you get my drift. You understand what I'm trying to say here. We want to connect you with good people to get you through the stress of this situation.
Look, without you all, I don't think I would have ever gotten anywhere near.
Wow.
Even
that's sweet.
It's not sweet. It's the truth.
Thank you.
I mean, it's been since what? Not yet a year, but we're working on it. And I probably made all the bad decisions anybody could make, trying to find somebody to help me. And then along came all of you. And I honor you and thank you for your help.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hang on in there. Faz figas.
I am. Hey, I don't want to go any place except Portugal.
Oh, that's so lovely. I can't wait to have a glass of wine with you here. Okay.
You will, yes.
De Porto, we will have a glass of wine to celebrate the fact once you do get here. Wonderful.
Bebo sumo e vino.
Brilliant. Roman, thank you very much for putting your details in. Yes, whatever you like, basically, Linda, when you get here. Roman, thank you for putting your details in for mortgages in Portugal there. Roman's email address is there. There was a question for that we can squeeze in before the end here for Nunu. Nunu, how would pet insurance benefit me? I have 3 dogs, 5.5, 3 years, and 11 weeks old, little puppy from Ken there. Can you tell us a little bit about your pet insurance, please, Nuno?
Well, this is pretty new. This is the first time that we are announcing it, so it's pretty new. So yes, we are settling an agreement with an insurer and with the biggest vet and welfare network. And when we say pets, think mainly on dogs and cats. So just contact us. It's very easy. Actually, I already text to Ken that because we have 5 hours difference after this webinar, I'm going to call him.
How about that?
Verify. So yeah, it's a pet insurance with the biggest vet care network.
Brilliant. With free goggles for every dog, is that part of the deal?
With free
goggles, the dog behind you.
Okay. No, I can jump to the final words. Actually, let me just and taking Linda's words that when you ask if she has clarified, yes, but not completely. We are like this dog, so don't worry with the destination. Enjoy the journey, because
yes.
I'm laughing all the time, all the webinar, because in my mind, I'm just thinking that all of you, or mostly all of you, are thinking how these guys can live in a country like this.
We can. Yeah. There are so many other things to make up for it. That's right.
Never a dull day.
That's brilliant, Nuno. Thank you very much for the answer. To Jackie, my son has a NIF and is waiting for his FBI check and meeting with the embassy for a visa. If he's planning to be here for 3 months starting December the 1st, do you recommend him applying for NHR without having both his FBI check and his visa? Well, let's try Carolina on that.
Well, I personally spoke with Jackie's son, but I can address it here as well. Again, it will depend on if this changes, if this transitory goes through.
Yeah.
We can show we would need to take action on his process and we would need to show at least intention on initiating the process. So I could either book him real quick an appointment and show it as proof of before X date the appointment was booked, so something was in motion. So as of today, it wouldn't be possible, but if this goes through in a month, we can do that. Well, in 5 minutes, I can do that, and it would serve as a possibility. But again, if this goes through, if it doesn't, well, it would not be eligible anymore.
Okay, thank you for that answer. It's 1 minute past 10, so we've kept everyone here over time. I thank you all very much, and I can't get to questions like, I mean, it would open a whole new can of political worms if I were to ask José's question about far-right parties gaining supporters because of the scandal with the Prime Minister. You just never know in politics. I mean, they're all making the most of it, I guess, while they can. Perhaps the best I can offer you is maybe to ask that question on the forum, and there will be people, I'm sure, who will give you an answer and speculate on that. And I guess the big question we want the answer to, and we can pick this up next week, perhaps on the Dream Team, is, you know, how is that going to be for foreigners? How are we viewed? I think that's probably what's at the bottom of that question, isn't it? Or the heart of that question. How will we be viewed by parties that are making the most of the scandal, who are maybe more right-wing leaning and don't have such a favourable view of foreigners coming to Portugal? Let's talk more about that on the forum, perhaps. José Mario can smell the dog's breath bouncing off Nunu's head. I'm sure you're not the only one thinking that tonight. There was another, Laurie as well. You were saying you understood from last week's Dream Team that Portugal would lose significant financial benefits from the EU if the budget isn't passed by the end of the year. There's that political dimension as well. And again, we can't get into that now at 3 minutes past 10. Let's take that to the forum, expatsportugal.com/community. And if you want to find these fine professionals here, find them in the Expats Portugal business directory as well. So thank you very much, Carolina, who I can see on the screen now. Carolina Cunha, Carolina Moralia, thank you very much. Daniel for being here, to Roman, to Sarah, and to Nunu, and forgive me if and to Duarte, of course, who was here earlier on. And I'll hand back to Astrid or Jackie if you'd like to say a few words and let us know what's going on next week. But Dream Team, great job tonight. Thank you very much. And thanks for all the questions, everybody. Thank you, Linda and Laurie, especially for being on screen. Astrid. Oh, Ken's got his hand up now. Is it a quickie, Ken? Oh, Ken's disappeared.
I think Jackie has something she wants to say.
Okay, thanks, Astrid. Over to you, Jackie, then, to conclude.
Oh, I know next week is Spartan. And I also want to wish everybody from the US a happy Thanksgiving for next Thursday.
Of course.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And we can't wait to welcome you here in Portugal, where there'll be extra things. As Nuno was saying, how can you put up with all that politics stuff? It's because of all the other wonderful things that we enjoy here in Portugal that we hope you'll be giving thanks for next year or whenever you decide to come.
We have a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah, thank you. The great point to end on. So yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and thanks everybody for staying a few more extra minutes. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you again here next week for the webinar, Spartan Effects, currency exchange, of course, and another Dream Team session. Take care